Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I've got filmmaker Dylan James Amick with me, and we're on Zoom. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Jeff. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right. I am proud to say I've got an introduction ready for Dylan. Dylan wrote and directed a great short horror film called Clean Cut, and it was at Filmvasion Los Angeles last year in 2021. And I'm happy to say Clean Cut took home the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Short Film Horror, and it also took home the Audience Award for Short Film Horror. And besides the award juries at the festival enjoying it, I believe I told Dylan at like a mixer and then during our Zoom Q&A, because of course it was a virtual festival in 2021, that I just think Clean Cut is a supremely good film. I love Clean Cut. Watch it again today. So good. So
you're so kind.
I'm not being kind. I'm just being honest. But
appreciate it. You know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
it was good.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I will keep talking about my film then. Yeah, Clean Cut was a great thing. You know, it's wonderful to see it come together. We talked a lot about it, and we did a deep dive with a Q&A for the festival last year. But again, just had a blast being a part of that. And a lot of that film, like I was saying, in that came together, over the process after shooting it in the post room. And that was it's so great to see that and see how it's landing people and see how it's like really getting that kind of visceral reaction that I live for, because I think everyone that makes films is trying to get some kind of reaction out of the audience. And it's, Clean Cut has gotten under people's skin the way I always hoped it would.
I bet it has. And hey, more good news. If you want to watch Clean Cut has joined the Discover Indie Film TV series. It's actually going to be in season 5, which by the time this podcast comes out, I believe season 5 will be available on Amazon Prime Video. So all people got to do, if they want to see the film, go to Amazon Prime Video, preferably on a television or something. I mean, I realize there's a whole generation watching movies on their phones. I'm gonna put my hands together and plead with people not to watch a film that's as visually rad as Clean Cut on a phone. And go to Amazon Prime Video, search for Discover Indie Film, and Clean Cut is in season 5, and it is well worth your time and money. Discover Indie Film used to be included with Prime. Now it's 99 cents an episode or $7.99 a season. So what can I say? That's my pitch, people. Watch this man's film. Dylan James Amick made a great film. There's going to be about 23 films in season 5. And they're all excellent. The quality's amazing. So please do that. 23 films for $8. What a deal. I'm in no way vested in this, but what a deal. I'm just kidding. But of course, it is a deal though, right? It's funny.
It's great.
Believe me, it was Amazon pushed us to switch away from free. It's obviously their choice whether or not you're on their servers for free. So fine, we couldn't be free anymore. But honestly, $7.99 to be entertained for 5 hours and enjoy more than 20 films that are we got horror, we got comedy, we got drama. I mean, we are kind of selling it
for some bad burgers than that. So that seems like a great deal to me.
I know. Seriously. Yeah. I waste $8 all the time.
Yeah, the price of meat's going crazy right now, but that's all different podcast for two other much more informed people.
In LA, you can't even get 2 gallons of gas for that.
Yeah. So
won't even get you to the next city over.
Prices. So in a world of crazy prices, that's a good deal, and that's just that's the point that we can all agree on.
And you can see multiple award-winning films for that $8. All right, so. Yeah. We don't have to keep talking about the TV series, though I certainly appreciate it. This is my chance to really get to know Dylan better. We got, like I said, if someone really wants to, they can go to filmvasionlosangeles.com, actually filmvasionla.com, and there actually will be a page that has all of the 2021 Q&As, and we're going to do a dive into Clean Cut, but if they want to hear a devoted dive, that's on there, that Q&A. But right now, I actually want to do a dive into Dylan himself, and it's such a creative film, and it's so well done. I'm really curious where you're coming from. So, what were your early inspirations to get into writing and film?
So I didn't start in film. I was a theater kid. I was a theater kid growing up. I saw a production of The Mousetrap my high school did, which I'm sure was probably awful. But when I was like, it was the first play I'd ever seen. I was in like ninth grade, and I was just blown away. I was like, wow! I talked to this guy in the high school, and now he's Inspector Trotter. He's so impressive. And so I just like afterwards, I ran up to like the people that were in the show, and I was like, how do I sign up? How do I do this? And after that point, I was doing like every play in my high school. I had a teacher there who was like, you should consider doing this for schooling. Because at that point, I was like, I guess I'll go to college. I'll figure that out at some point. And I went to Tech, Virginia Tech, and ended up majoring in theater there. I worked on a ton of shows, and I fell in love with it. I was really drawn to like Peter Brooks's work and like Augusta Buell, and I was reading a lot of theater theory that was less commercial based and much more the idea of theater as a conduit for community and like a practice to build trust through. And so like I was so moved by the idea of like working with small, we're working with small groups and trying to use theater to like invoke conversation while also working on these kind of like more commercial style plays at school.
But were
Really, in
you
college,
involved as a performer, or were you interested in? Were you like doing some stage? Were you directing some theater?
So in high school, I tried to be an actor, and without, even though you guys missed me being Giles Corey in The Crucible, which I'm sure I was riveting in. At some point post high school, I realized I had thought ultimately I was never leaving the stage being like, oh yeah, I rocked that. Like, this is a good use of my time. I had a blast doing it. I loved making it. But it was just never really felt comfortable. I had always gotten involved in more technical based stuff. So when I was at Tech, I was doing, in college, I was doing a lot of lighting design, and I was working with projections. And so doing more of that production aspect. And then through that, I got really into directing. And so really early on in college, I started directing. I got to do my first full play in my sophomore year. I did Dog Sees God by Bert V. Royal, which is like a deconstruction of the Peanuts comics. And so like it was a fun little play. I had a blast doing it. I had a blast making art there. And I found a great community of other artists. And I really started jiving with people, less about the like this theater practitioner, like, 'cause I was living in this very academic world. And now that I was kind of meeting this kind of more artist-based community, I was jiving with them on making original content. So we started talking more, and we started making more stuff. Ultimately, I finished school. A couple of them also finished school, and we came together in New York to start a theater collective, Critical Point Theater, and that's where we were producing original plays. We did plays with the New York Fringe, with the DC Fringe. We toured a show out to San Fran for the Fury Factory Festival. We had like a lot of we had like a decent amount of success doing that, and like made some really good projects, I think, through the company. And all through this time, like up through college, I was just not really a film guy. Like I think the thing I'd watched the most before then was really SVU, which is not, I think the most artistically fulfilling show, but good quality junk food content, especially those first 13 seasons. Anyways, so in well,
let me jump in with a question. Question and comment, but it is really interesting to me because, okay, I've only seen Clean Cut, but yeah. I think the fact that you were so theater focused and like theater directing as a young person, like talk about a lesson in that the director's role is to encourage good performances, because, you really don't live stage. Everything you've said is just in their heads. Like it's not like you can call cut and do adjustments.
Yeah. And here's why I think like I recommend anyone who wants to direct in film to direct in theater for at least some period of time, is that directing in theater above all else teaches you how to convey the idea. Cause it's like you're saying, like you have to encourage a good performance. Like you can't just be like, just talk louder, stand to your left and do the thing, which is a fine note when you're doing a film, because like sometimes that's how you get shot the fastest. But you have to really convince every person involved, the designers, the actors, what your vision in your head is, because ultimately that has to keep coming together time and time again. You got to teach everyone the song as opposed to just be like, sing this one note,
Yeah. And you truly learn that it's a collaborative medium.
Yeah, having to depend on people the way you do in theater because of the time commitment has taught me to really trust crews, and ultimately, I think that kind of trust in crews has really elevated a lot of the things I've worked on.
Fantastic. And all right, so besides SVU, you were really just focused on theater, and it's also interesting that you got into writing and playwriting, because an amazing thing about theater is you can have a whole career and there is so much material to do.
Yeah, it's I think it's such a challenge, and like ultimately being in New York, it's such a great thing to like, because that community just really thrives on like people going to take in new theater, getting to see these small off Broadway shows, and getting to be part of that was like an incredibly foundational part of me becoming an artist, and seeing just kind of what works, because I'm from Virginia. I spent most of my life in Roanoke, Virginia, which is not a huge artistic metropolis.
Right. So you grew up in Roanoke, and then you went to Virginia Tech, which wasn't too far away.
No, it's like a 45-minute drive in Blacksburg, which actually my hometown was bigger than my college town. But like, so you need to come to New York and being to expose like all these different kind of stories. That's where I started really consuming film. People would be like, "Oh, you have to watch David Lynch now, and now you have to watch, all these Scorsese movies and that kind of stuff." And like, I loved getting to take that in. I was a little late to it, and ultimately, like, I fell in love with that. And I fell in love with that because as I kept working in theater, I was making my own stuff. I was also working on the side as like a technician for larger productions. I was, I did a Broadway production. I worked on a couple larger festivals. It kept moving up in the world, and the higher you move up in theater, the more kind of just elite and pandering it is to this kind of world of like just the cost of tickets, because commercial theater is just an incredibly expensive game because the time commitment from this huge group of people, which everyone deserves to be paid, rightfully so. I just found that it was never what I wanted to do. And I started seeing film as this way to tell stories in people's living room that could be as powerful as the plays I saw, Not everyone needs to go watch Mother Courage on some big stage to be like, oh, wow, that's the point of watching art right now, You can have those same moments, even on your phone. I'd recommend a TV, but you could have them on your phone if you want.
For sure.
So
and that's interesting, right? So even though there can be small little neighborhood theater vibes, theater itself is a lot less accessible than film.
Yeah, because even though and I'm not here to shit on any kind of small theater, because I saw some shows at the Bushwick Bushwick Star, there's the shows that I saw at the Public, which is a larger one. The Hive, I saw beautiful pieces of theater that I'll always remember. But to see a film and to be able to show your friend and not have to have because it takes. I would love every city to have little home theaters the way New York does. But it's just not sustainable because it takes communities of artists all having this kind of breeding ecosystem together to be able to sustain that. And hopefully we see more of that in other places. But that was the first time I got exposed to it. It brought me into film, and then my kind of desire to reach more people beyond the people who came to a theater and wore a nice shirt that day, drew me to film. And then I thought, let's start trying this and doing this.
Right. And you had gotten really interested in storytelling, it sounds like.
Yeah. So by that point, I would say immediately after college, because I was in college for 3.5 years. I finished a semester early. And then in that time, we did 47 productions. I worked on 45 of them. So I was just I left college and I was so burnt out. And I was like, all right, I need to just do my job and do nothing. Less than a year later, I was like, all right, I'm getting the itch. I got to do something more creative right now. That's when I joined Critical Point Theater. That's when we started making all these things. And that's when I started leaning back into saying, beyond paying the bills, doing lighting and projections, how do I write more? How do I direct more? And it was one of the other writers through that group, Andrew Cableline, really encouraged me to keep writing, to keep working on things. And I'm so thankful for that guy. And one of my best friends in life. And through that, we worked on an audio drama called The Grayscale. And that was a sci-fi style kind of show where we told these half-hour Monster of the Week mysteries. And after our second season, we got recognized by the Rod Sterling Memorial Foundation for excellence in sci-fi storytelling. That was a huge deal for us. We did that show for three seasons. It's still available on iTunes or whatever they're calling Apple Podcasts now. From there, I was like, that was the point where I was like, I had started to see some more films. I started to kind of think about that medium more. I had even worked on a couple like small, like independent sets. And so I was like, let's try making some film projects. That started with the really bad short about mourning that probably no one's going to watch, but I liked it. I loved making it. My crew worked super hard on it. And
that's one that you wrote and directed and threw together a crew to make it.
I wrote and directed it, and I mixed it, and I was the boom guy for it. And just ultimately, I was not ready to do all those things. And, the quality of work shows that.
But you got to start somewhere.
You got to make the bad films. And ultimately, it's so scary sometimes to be like, oh, I'm gonna fall. It's like it's the same reason why you don't want to like ride a bike or like even sometimes you get that kind of like a creative anxiety. You don't want to have to break the inertia of like, or even the brace for the impact of like, this is going to be rough at some point.
Yeah. And you'd already done a very legitimate theatrical degree. So it certainly probably wasn't very appealing to you to go back to school and get a film degree at that point.
Yeah. And I didn't go back to school at all for a film degree. But like to have to step back and to be new at a thing again is always so embarrassing, but you got to keep working at things. I pushed through that. I did a couple other small video things. I was doing a lot of projection design, which thankfully allowed me to shoot some small, like not quite scenes, just imagery to be able to play with that for stuff. From there, I think the first real thing I did was I ended up doing a web series with a buddy of mine about 2 delivery boys in New York. And this would have been in 2018, I think. We put that on YouTube and, not a huge success, but it was a quality product. People really liked it. We did a couple of festivals, had some good chats about it. And that kind of became the first thing where I was like, great, now I'm seeing my ideas and my aesthetic work. Now I'm ready to put this towards a smaller thing that we can do. And that led to Clean Cut.
And that was all still in New York, right?
All still in New York. Yeah. I moved, I literally took my last exam at Virginia Tech. My dad was in the parking lot and then he drove me to New York and dropped me off.
Well, kudos to your dad. Then that's some pretty good parental support.
Oh yeah. My dad's the fucking man. Saved that first F-bomb for that one because he's worth it. So he was super supportive. My parents, I talked to them a lot, I think in college, kind of being like, I did like community theater at I would drive all around I'd have 45 minutes to go do dinky little parts in community theater plays in high school, just to have something else to do. My parents were, super supportive of, letting me do that. And I talked to them and was kind of like, I don't feel like the community I need in this area. And they were like, that makes sense. You should go somewhere else. So went to New York, was there from 2012 to 2020.
And when you moved because you figured I'm going to pursue this film thing. I'm going to go to that other coast.
Way less bold than that. I'm mad respect to everyone who does that jump. My wife works in medicine. She's actually working on her medical residency right now. And she got into a program in Los Angeles. So that required us to move. And so ultimately,
well, by the way, congratulations on managing to get married and marry a real person.
Yeah.
Not a fellow theater person.
Life achievements unlocked, it's great. My wife is, an incredibly supportive person. And, I can't remember who said this. This might be a Stephen King thing. This might be somebody else. But just the idea of you should always, as a writer, find your one reader. And ultimately, you're going to change, your style's going to change, the market's going to change. Write for one reader. And if that person keeps liking your work, you'll be fine. My wife and my one reader. And I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Well, congrats on that. And actually, I do remember meeting her. I believe she came with you to the Film Invasion mixer last June.
Oh yeah. She's a great mixer date, very social. People want to chat with her. I get to hop in on the conversation halfway through. It's a great strategy for me.
That is excellent.
All
right. So she initiates this move to LA, which, man, that's talk about convenient for a filmmaker.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know anything about the the process of matching for med students, this is like mind blowing to me. So they go to all these interviews and then they list their like top 10 or 15 choices. And then they wait several months and then they find out where they're going to have to move.
Yeah, for residency.
And so like, it's ultimately kind of crazy because we just kind of like, we had a chat in March and we're like, all right, we're either going to stay in New York or move to LA. And then we found out, you know, so we had a chat pre-pandemic. The pandemic started. After that, we found out. And so like, great, we're going to move across the country. This will be fun.
So Clean Cut was shot back in New York?
Yes, Clean Cut was shot in New York pre-pandemic. And basically what happened is that like, I just, like many things in making film, I underestimated some stuff and just ran out of the budget before I could start, you know, working on things, which was great because originally I was going to keep doing a lot of the post myself. And because I stopped, I had to do some other stuff. I was able to hook up with the producer, have chats with him, and ultimately he was able to lead me to the crew that really elevated that project. And so I'm so thankful for that, you know, that hiccup, because I think that totally changed what could have been just a cool exercise into a great film.
For sure. And you mentioned the first film. Were there a couple more in between that first one and Clean Cut, or is Clean Cut?
So I think there's probably like 4 things that I was doing between the first thing and Clean Cut, counting that web series. And then between Clean Cut being done, I shot and edited my own little, because originally I had this idea of doing 3 pieces like Clean Cut that were all about doubles. And I shot a little thing called Watch that was part of like the Inwoods Arts Festival in New York, a very small film festival. And so it was just a little thing with the guy who plays the body double in Clean Cut. So no one you recognize from watching the film because you'll only see his feet. But just a little fun thing that we shot. Clean Cut, I would say, is ultimately like what I say is my first real thing, because that's the quality of work that I want to be known for. That's the kind of thing. Everything else has been important, and I'm so appreciative of the work that I've made. But like, this is honing in on like the art of Bill and Amick that I want people to be able to see and experience.
Right. So the previous stuff had the feel for you of an exercise, and now Clean Cut is something that doesn't feel like an exercise anymore. It is ready. Yeah.
You know, if somebody called me and was like, we want to show Staying With Us, my first film, on Amazon, I'd be like, no, not really. Like, you know, even for whatever I'm going to make on that, like, there's just, I don't need people to Google my name and see that, you know. Clean Cut, I'm so proud of them. I'm so excited to be sharing this with more people, because, you know, it's making movies is about sharing them, you know, like, and what draws me to so many things is chances like this to talk about films and be like, oh my God, how cool was it when, you know.
For sure. And I'm just going to throw the compliment to you too on Clean Cut. I mean, it's so well done. And when you were talking about you were going to make a trilogy that involved doubles, you know, even though I know how you did it from talking to you before, watching it again today, I thought, man, you might have used twins. Like, I might have believed you used twins to make that film, because the doubling effect and your use of mirrors is so effective. Like, it's so well done that I almost believe you had to use the twin shortcut.
I wish. And you know, when I was doing theater in high school, I did high school twice with I did theater twice with 2 sets of twins. So they've always been on the periphery, and I've never taken advantage of that film cheat. So what I'm saying is, I'm a real artist. Go ahead.
Fair enough. All right. So you said a series of really interesting things. Which, first of all, you completed this film, then you actually made the move out. Well, then your wife finds out she's going to do residency here in Los Angeles, and then you find out you're going to move, and then you move during pandemic. So you land in LA when you can't go out and can't do anything.
Yeah. And I will say, you know, again, like, I'm not trying to look up your ass. Like, I was so thankful that in that time, like, Film Invasion LA, like, did set aside a safe way to do the mixer, you know, because that was the first networking thing I got to do in LA since moving here. And like, that was so great just to be like, to have the chance to be like, we're going to get to go and talk film right now. And I'm so excited.
Yeah. For those who don't know, even though in June of 2021, we couldn't quite, there was still a lot of regulations in LA City and LA County for theaters.
Yeah.
So all the screenings were virtual and all the Q&As were virtual, but we had the social mixer in the outdoor patio of a Sherman Oaks landmark Mexican restaurant. And so actually everyone got to come out and meet each other. I believe we did. Did we do two of them? Did we do one at the beginning of the festival and one at the end?
Yeah, you guys did. I was sadly already traveling for
traveling,
the festival at the end one, but
which was kind of fun because that way, you got to meet a bunch of people the day before screening started, virtual screening started, and then you could be like, okay, that person I spoke to, I'm going to watch that film for sure.
100% what I did. So
yeah. And that was yes. What can I say? I'm the programmer of that festival, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get out of the house too. So, and to be honest, I had someone in my household with cancer, and I had to be very careful. So I wasn't going to dick around with any kind of indoor activity.
Super safe. Again, I was just appreciative of it. Because coming out here, it's, like, I'm not going to bore you with some 90s stand a bit about, oh man, LA is so different than New York. But, the community out here is just, it's definitely here. And whenever you can find pockets of it, especially right now in these moments of like a long kind of social isolation, like it's so rewarding. The connection of art is what constantly draws me to this more than anything else.
For sure. And God, I think LA might be harder to move to even than New York because it's more spread out. And, in order to find like-minded people, it might be a little more challenging probably than New York. I don't know. I found it's funny because New Yorkers have a reputation for being gruff or rude, but every time I've been in New York, I've just met so many nice people. So, and I'm a native Angelino, but I hear it is pretty tough to move here and get a toehold. And then to do so during a pandemic where literally, if you are in public, you're supposed to stay 6 feet apart. I mean,
it's hard to pitch from 6 feet apart, but we all do what we can.
For sure. Well, I'm glad you're out here. And it's so funny. Until this conversation, I didn't actually know about the New York thing, right? Because you submitted the film. I think you'd moved here at the time you were submitting.
Yeah.
So, and then you came to the mixer. I just figured, hey, this is a local filmmaker. For all I knew, you were born and raised in LA. Like, no idea that you would come over here during the madness of the last year or 2 years.
It's, I think, so when I was doing the submissions, and I think it's always interesting to talk about this kind of stuff, like, I think I kind of did 3 kind of like bowls of like things I submitted to. And I submitted to like New York festivals that were taking place very off in the future. Cause I was like, this will all calm down and I'll be able to go back and do a couple there. Then I was submitting to anything that was like, film freeway pushed horror. And then anything in LA. Cause I wanted to try to get, hopefully they'll get, 1 or 2 local things. And so, so I ended up submitting to that. And, I think, being out here is great. It was always on a goal of mine and I'm happy to be doing it. I'm happy to be doing it now, cause the move is always gonna be hard. So why not do it now? And now I have this good story about it.
Very cool. Well, so I saw you in June of 2021 and honestly, COVID really did recede throughout the summer. I believe things kept loosening up. Did you get a theatrical experience in?
Yeah, I just saw everyone's talking about Jamie.
I mean for Clean Cut though. Did you get to sit in the theater? Did you get to sit in the theater with people and see Clean Cut with an audience around you?
Yeah, Clean Cut had its first public showing in September, I think. Maybe it was October. October of no, it was September back in of 2021, because that happened the same weekend that my younger brother got married. So top thing of my week, brother getting married, number 2. No, I'm kidding. I mean, yeah,
I'm sure you could have told your brother, look, I'd love to come to your wedding, but my film is screening.
Luckily they only screened it for 1 day. So they made that choice for me.
So you were able to go to both.
I was able to go to both. It was great. And so getting to see it live with an audience was really wonderful. Got to see some other great films there and connect with some filmmakers. And also just kind of coming back to Virginia, and Richmond's a much, I think, more cultural city than Blacksburg or Roanoke. But, just getting to come back to be close to my parents were able to like both drive to the showing, and like they don't see a ton of the stuff I do. So like that was great to be able to share the art with them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm glad you got to do that. I'm glad that, because September, that was before the end of year surge.
Omicron.
Before Omicron, before it got weird to go inside the theaters again.
So, it's a thing. We're I think done with screenings now. There's a couple more that are just kind of like last minute submissions that I was like, sure, why not? We'll keep riding this table. But ended up doing like I think 10 festivals. I'm super happy with the product. I can't wait for everyone to see it.
Right. Well, when we stop recording, I'm going to throw an idea at you, but that's just a little hint. Sorry, people, you don't get to hear it.
Ooh, maybe in the sequel.
Maybe. Well, I should mention it, but okay. So anyway, maybe I'll mention it at the very end. But
I'm a building. We're crushing this.
Apparently I'm a tease. So anyhow. So you're a creative guy. For those who can't see it, if you go to discoveryindiefilm.com, you'd see it on the wall next to Dylan are the notes of several scripts and ideas, I think.
It's scenes for one idea, but yeah, he's talking about, I got the rows of index cards on the wall next to me. I'm a big index carder.
So have you planned what comes after Clean Cut?
Yeah. So it's been a lot of working on writing this year, and a lot of working on like television writing, not on any kind of staff room, but like kind of working on projects, working on some pitch decks, trying to get some conversations going about that. And then right now I'm gearing up for trying to do a feature, which, it's always that huge jump from, doing the 7 minutes, which feels like eternity when you're doing it, to jumping to 90 minutes is, 83 whole minutes. Did that math by myself. Like it's intimidating, but ultimately I think I want to be able to continue to pursue the goal of reaching the most people. And I feel like, particularly at this moment through TikTok and that kind of stuff, social film, a short film feels so drowned out as a thing to get people to really latch onto. And so trying to push, I think, for some more exploring longer ideas. That's my goal.
By the way, are you a writer of all genres, or because Clean Cut? I'm about to say something I probably shouldn't. I'm about to say, like, if you stick with your insight into horror and films with tension and a bit of a thriller, because Clean Cut in a lot of ways I think is almost whatever. We could argue whether it's horror or thriller or this or that.
Yeah.
But like, if you were to make a horror feature, like, everyone on our board would be like, oh yeah, that's great, because those are that's a genre that has a very welcoming public.
100%. Yeah. And I think, again, looking at communities, I think the horror community is incredible. People love that. And there's such a vast world of what people like, because like ultimately I grew up watching a lot of like slasher horror. And I think I see, I wear some of that on my sleeve, but like mostly like now, like I'll watch some of those, but I have no, like, I'm not excited for another Halloween, in the same way that I am for like, like I'm pumped for Nope. I'm trying to hide from everything about it that I can, because I'm so excited about it, I get pumped whenever I just saw Titan and I was like, oh yeah, this is the kind of movie I want to watch. I'm going to keep doing some horror. Ultimately, that's what I want to do. It's hard. I do try to mix up genres, but I think what I focus on across kind of every genre is like, I think loneliness is always kind of a theme of what I do. And then this kind of thriller element is a big important part of what I do. And even in Clean Cut, when you watch, you'll see like there's a bit of a, like a humorous twist to things for me. Cause like, I think I love having a good laugh in a theater, and so like having those three, when they work together, those are the films that really stick with me.
For sure. And we throw around the word horror, but there's dramatic horror, there's comedic horror.
Yeah.
There's action horror. there's jump scare horror, there's slow and creepy horror. I mean, it is a many splendored thing.
Yeah, and I think what I'm really drawn to in horror stories is like, what is the humanity of monsters? I think like those are the kind of stories I want to keep exploring. And Clean Cut was maybe a little monster heavy. Love doing it. What I want to do next is going to be very human, very kind of brooding, very much in that world of like creep. Not the film creep, but I guess like the emotion of creeping. Which
I'm a big fan of
Creep.
that film. I thought, it's funny when we have a 14-year-old and she was 13 when the pandemic started. And hardcore into horror. So every Friday and Saturday night, she and I watched 2 horror films. And, you just Google the hell out of best horror on Netflix, best horror on this, best horror on that. And like Creep comes up in everyone's top 10 list. That is a.
When he puts on that wolf mask, it's legitimately terrifying for no reason. But like, if you haven't seen Creep, go watch Creep. It's great. Mark Duplass, good filmmaker. Shock surprise.
Yeah. And a great, and honestly, it appealed to someone in his 50s and an early teenager. So what can I say?
Yeah.
High praise.
Creep too. Not a lot of people nailed the sequel, but it's good. Yeah.
For sure. All right. So you just mentioned that. So you're working on that feature. Is that what's up on the wall or?
What's up on the wall is a different feature. I'm one of those assholes who works on like 4 things at once. So
I wouldn't call that an
slowly.
asshole. I think I'd call that an intelligent person who knows that you don't want all your eggs in one basket anyway.
Yeah, and this is a very different basket. I write with another person. I write with the guy Dan Fismer, and he was actually the producer on Clean Cut. Great guy. He runs a production company called Kid Cactus. He and I wrote a pilot about Alexander Graham Bell that got into a couple festivals. It was a finalist for one of the Screencraft True public domain things. But he and I are working on a feature right now about aviation and the history of that. So a lot of fun.
Excellent. Yeah. And another smart move. Public domain stuff, I think, is underexploited by indies. Like, Hollywood is always subtly doing it.
I think people love a story of like any version of, I kind of know that, and it's an underdog story. People love that. I mean, like, one of my favorite films is Catch Me If You Can. And any film that can make you keep being like, what's this guy going to do next? Like, that's always the goal.
For sure. And I just learned that Sherlock Holmes is public domain.
Yeah. I think one of them isn't. Like, I think
it's like the last book, the family's fighting over like the last book, but like that Enola Holmes, Netflix was able to make a film about Sherlock Holmes's younger sister and have Superman have James Cavill play Sherlock in it. And that's public domain. That name is part of our culture. You can use it any way you want.
Yeah. And I think when I think about the biopics that I like, because there's, biopics are clearly just a thing that people like. People like knowing some stories and kind of seeing that the deeper character development of the people we relate to. I was listening to a different episode of this podcast and found out that you're one of the few people who have seen *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. Oh,
you heard me suggest that to somebody?
Yeah, I did my research. I listened to a couple episodes. But
I appreciate that. Oh my God, *Halt and Catch Fire* is an amazing show.
Yeah, and I feel like nobody watched that. And I'm like, this is the way that I want these kinds of period, like the building of industry, tycoons of who they are. Like, that's so much more fascinating than like watching someone play Steve Jobs and yell at everyone for an hour and a half. That's my hot take,
that is a great take. and I'll add that the creators of *Halt and Catch Fire* were so smart because they kind of just focused on, for every Steve Jobs, for every Michael Dell, there was a couple hundred people who had a similar idea who didn't quite get to market first or didn't make it first and didn't win, but they were there.
Yeah.
Like they were there. There's a lot going on every day. Like, There's a lot of EV companies that aren't called Tesla that might have been Tesla. They just barely missed being the first big name in that. So
yeah, and that kind of idea of like chasing greatness in that way. And it's one of the two shows that like seeing the story through the perspective of a loser like that. You know, the phrase is, you know, like a commercial loser, but like it allows you to kind of see like, oh yeah, like obsessions, we love it when it works out. Then it's like, what a brave guy who took the gamble and put all the chips on black. But like when you lose, you're like, yeah, that was insane to devote your life to a thing that might not have worked out. Like, why are you doing that?
For sure. Which is why it's a good idea to write 4 scripts at once.
Yeah. So, you know, keep working on things. You know, so my big notes are after you watch my film, then watch Creep, and then watch Halt and Catch Fire, which is only 4 seasons. So it's not that much of your life. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And we did skip over Clean Cut pretty quickly, but although we did mention people can watch go back to the Q&A, but I don't know. Is there anything we should have said about Clean Cut?
I mean, Clean Cut's just, you know, it's a thriller about roommates stuck in their apartment. And I think it was written before COVID, and then COVID gave it this kind of whole new meaning. You know, that
and I can say now that I know your history, like you get amazing performances out of your 2 performers, out of your 2 actors. And now that I know of your stage background and theater and getting involved in playwriting and theater directing, now I see why it's so pitch perfect. Because I mean, there's moments where your characters seem to go over the edge, and yet it works perfectly. Like I think it's brave performances and brave directing to you know, a lot of people would say dial it back, don't laugh hysterically, don't seem like you've gone insane already and stuff. And you know, I just, now that I know your background, I totally see where that came from.
Yeah, you know, I think my biggest regret of Clean Cut is that neither Matt Schott or Nate Betancourt ever got even like a nomination for like a performance thing, because I thought they just brought the freaking fire to those acting roles. And like that's also where it started from. You know, it's important to have, I'm a big believer in having chats with yourself and being like, take stock, how are you feeling, what's going on? And when I was looking at the stuff that I had made and I wasn't happy with it, and I was having that hourglass moment of like, you have a good aesthetic, but your skills aren't there yet. You know what's good, but you know your stuff isn't good, and you're not able to figure out why. When I made that connection, I was like, it's the performances. I'm not directing for the camera right. I'm trying to be in the room, and it's not working right now. And so I really went into Clean Cut being like, the reason it's in my apartment and it's only those 2 locations is because I was like, I just want to focus on the acting. I want to be able to put one camera and, you know, work through that and like really get solid performances. And I'm so grateful to Nate and Matt because they're incredible actors.
Absolutely. And you know, it's funny. I said to myself, why didn't your cast get like we have an award for best performance by a cast horror? And you know, you had the bad luck of last year at Film Invasion Los Angeles, we had Koreatown Ghost Story.
They followed me. I was in a lot of the same festivals as them, and like the one, like it's a great film. I watched it, Koreatown Ghost Story, loved it. It deserves everything it's getting. That was like my the film that I kept watching as I was submitting to festivals because it kept being in the same ones or in the ones I didn't get into. So shout out to those guys, great film.
And you know, fair or not, they've got Margaret Cho, who's amazing.
Yeah. Great.
So yeah, I was like, why didn't you win cast? And I went, oh, Koreatown Ghost Story won cast. Okay.
Yeah.
But hey.
And you know, you never get mad about those things. I think
it is what it is.
The only thing that I'll ever repeat as like, this is a smart thing Woody Allen said, is like if you believe in when they give you an award, you'll believe it when they don't give you one. And ultimately, like you have to be in it for yourself and like chasing little accolades. I don't know. I've seen people do it, and it's not what I want to do. I'm very happy for the opportunity that we got to share my film. I'm very happy to get to work with the people I get to work with, and you know, the chance to keep making stuff, hearing people want to see more of my stuff. That's the accolade that I need.
Yeah. And as someone who's on an award committee and you know, on a jury, and I was like, wow, I just think your actors hit it out of the park and are superb. that's and the award is irrelevant.
Yeah, and again, like I'll say it from the time. The cast of Koreatown Ghost Story is incredible. Like very much an award well deserved. Like good film.
Yeah, and in a way, sometimes I think juries, like a cast of 5 or 6 or 7, is going to get a better shot at best cast than a cast of 2. But
yeah, and then we were also in the category with Strongbox, which was the one guy show, and that guy was also a very strong actor. So I'm happy to have had great competition and to have felt at home in that. Matt and Nate will both get their other options. Both of them were on the podcast we did. Matt's in Staying With Us. He is a good actor with a bad director in that film. So we'll all keep doing stuff. And I guess the only thing I'll say about the film is just, it's 7 minutes. Just go in and I don't really want to tell you a lot about it. Just experience it. Like the experience I wanted to create for you as a viewer was how I get to feel when someone's like, hey, watch this. Because I almost never ask, what is it? And I go in blind and just experience the film. It'll feel real to you and it'll feel fun.
I'm with you. Like when I know film recommendation, is a pretty common thing. And expectations are a bitch. I don't like giving people expectations, because the less you know about a film before you see it, the more you can appreciate it.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What's your favorite film you've gone into blind?
Wait, favorite film what?
Your favorite film you've gone into blind?
Completely blind would have been a film called With Noel and I.
Okay.
I don't know if you know it. It came out I think it was in the late 80s. It was from George Harrison's company. Bruce Robinson, who had written it was a film about 2 British actors in the late 60s who go outside of London because they're so broke. They're going to try to just stay in one of their uncle's cottages out in the English countryside. So anyway, I walked in, no idea. I just knew I wanted to see it because it was a handmade film from George Harrison's company I don't know if you know, but that film company was formed just to make Life of Brian for Monty Python.
Yeah.
Because no one would put up the money for a blasphemous film like that. And once they created a film production company, they said, well, let's make other great so they would just make anything amazing.
With Noel and I. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. WithnAil is how you spell With Noel. By the way, it was starring, oh my God, I'm blanking. The greatest actor alive. And another greatest actor, Paul McGann, and oh my God, I'm gonna look it up. But in the meantime, what should we talk about?
I think that's everything I need to say about Clean Cut.
By the way, the name I was looking for was Richard E. Grant. Don't know if you know Richard E. Grant.
Yeah, I know Richard Grant. Yeah, great.
It was basically the film that broke him, and he went from being a little London stage actor to a movie star.
That's what we all hope to do one day. I'm tired of being a London stage actor myself, but
I bet your film will be well received in London.
I wish. Never been. I was going to go to Paris in March of 2020, but that didn't work out.
Really? Yeah. You were scheduled to go to Paris?
I was supposed to leave March 17th. So the whole at the beginning of March, my wife was like, "Have you heard about this? COVID thing? We should start looking into getting masks for the planes." And then day by day, we just started canceling things. And this is a story we all have it happen for the past 2 years. So I don't need to keep going on.
Was that for a Paris trip or was that for a film festival?
That was for a Paris trip. I've never been to Europe. So.
Oh man, my heart goes out. Well, the two of you will go to Paris for sure. It is amazing. It's funny because when you're talking about New York, and you were talking about the culture and everything, I'm like, oh my God, the museums and the art galleries, besides just the theaters, everything. And if you appreciated New York, then you're going to appreciate Paris. That's for sure.
Can't wait. Lots of traveling left in my future.
Could you try again?
I'm going to try again, please.
I have no idea what made my watch think I just spoke to it, but what can we do? All right. Well, I don't want to drag it out anymore. I'm looking forward to we'll wrap up this podcast and then we'll start recording again and we'll do your 4 questions.
Yep.
So those of you listening, just know that the next podcast after this one on Discover Indie Film is going to be Dylan Amick answering favorite films, underrated, overrated, and something lesser known to seek out. So that should be fun because I'm curious. You have such a theatrical background. I wonder what films really inspire you. So that's going to be fun.
And I'm going to skew very modern. So, talking about recent film. What?
Skew modern. Why not? I know my problem is, as an old person, when pressured to answer these questions like favorite films, I'm like, well, can I give you my favorites when I was in high school, and then my favorites from college, and my favorites from my 30s, my favorites in my 40s, and now my favorites in my 50s? Because I still love the stuff I loved as a kid, but it's hard to like, at what point do I push one of my top 3 out for something new? Like, it's tough. It's tough.
And ultimately, just like, such an interesting question, because you can go so many directions with it, and you can say, is it, is it the films you've seen the most? Is it the ones that mean the most to you? Is it the one that you just like, you recommend the most? Like,
yeah, it definitely doesn't. That's why the word is favorite. It doesn't say, what do you think are the 3 greatest films ever made? It's, what do you love watching? Truth is, there was a dumb as shit film called Summer School with Mark Harmon.
Okay.
It was like close to a B movie that came out while I was in college. And we watched that motherfucking VHS of Summer School probably 50 times in like a year or two, because it was just fun and dumb. What are you going to do?
That film for me as a kid was Rat Race, which does not make the top 3, but ultimately, totally worth a film obsession.
By the way, just a joke. I was watching something with my wife right before coming in to talk to you, and there was references to Rat Race on the TV show we were watching.
What show was that? That is a niche reference.
Have you ever heard of Joe Pera Talks to You?
No.
It was an Adult Swim, which is normally crazy shit, right? This was actually recommended by a filmmaker who had a film in Sherman Oaks last year. And he recommended it. So you know how Adult Swim is always edgy, crazy. Like, I love Eric Andre on there. I love all kinds of stuff. This is comedian Joe Pera, who might be 30, but he acts like a 65-year-old man hunched over, and he talks really slow, and he just goes, I'd like to talk to you about beans. And he talks about how interesting beans are, or interesting thing. It's like Mr. Rogers. And anyway, he wanted to do something nice for all his friends. So he'd seen the movie Rat Race, and he made a rat race for them where like I put $100 in a locker, and each of you are being given a map to find it, and whoever gets there first gets the money.
Wow. I'm so excited to be someone who has not seen Rat Race, and to watch that and to be like, oh, what are they talking about? This is a cool premise. Someone should make this movie.
It's funny. I can barely remember Rat Race. I don't know if I saw the whole thing. I actually had a friend in it, so I think I did see it. But anyhow,
yeah,
I think I should shut up.
I will as well. But
sorry,
I said I will as well. So
okay, we will both shut up. Is there a website or social media or anything that you want people to check out? So
you can always check out DylanJAmick.com. I spell it DYLAN, like Bob Dylan. So DylanJAmick.com is where I kind of post my portfolio stuff. It's where I'll link to Clean Cut on Discover Indie Film. If you want to follow me on social, I am LOL hashtag. I believe it's LOL _ hashtag on Instagram, because I'm so bold.
Well, I think it's cool. I think it's funny.
I think it's great. It's ultimately a joke that made me laugh over 12 years ago. And I'm still, I said, I was like, yeah, a hashtag. That's funny, So it's good enough for me. It's good enough for you. Follow along.
And I'm thinking about the tens of thousands of teenagers who went for LOL hashtag and then tried it with an underscore and like, damn it. Like, a lot of people are unhappy when they find out you got there first.
At some point I was reading a lot about like people stealing like OG Twitter handles and stuff like that. And I was like, I wonder if anyone's ever going to come after mine. It hasn't happened yet, but
Yeah, there was a This American Life about that, I believe. Oh, no, it was Reply All.
Reply All. About to say, yeah, that was a great one.
We both listen to Reply All. Go figure.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal podcast. So
it's a great podcast. All right. Well, I will wrap this sucker up. If you want to learn more about Dylan James Amick and his work, DylanJAmick.com and at LOL_hashtag. Those are both going to be in the show notes. So people just have to go to show notes if they want.
Yeah. And you can also just walk around LA and shout my name. If I'm walking around.
Yeah, you want to give a neighborhood? No, just kidding.
You want to give out your address right
now? And Dylan's Film Clean Cut is in the Discover Indie Film TV series, which was born out of this podcast because I kept I am programmed to film festivals here in Los Angeles, and those 15, 20-minute Q&As at the theater are nice, but there's so much left unsaid that I figured I'd start a podcast. And then the podcast, I found out the shorts really weren't going to streaming that effectively. Everyone with a feature was having a good experience on streaming, so we put a bunch of shorts together. We are now on season 5. Every season, 10 episodes. So we've done 50 episodes at this point. And Dylan's Film Clean Cut is in season 5. So if you go to Amazon Prime Video, search for Discover Indie Film, and Clean Cut is in season 5. But trust me, all 5 seasons are good. Well worth your time. We joked about how little $7.99 is to ask for 20 plus excellent films. And if you want to learn more about this podcast or the TV series, go to discoveryndiefilm.com. On social media, it's at DIFWins. We talked about Clean Cut winning a couple of awards at Film Invasion Los Angeles. We hold that festival every June. So just go to filminvasionla.com for more info, or you can follow it on social media. It's at Film Invasion LA on most of the platforms. I'm sure there's a couple I don't know about. And every November, there's a sister festival to Film Invasion called the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. So that's every November. You can learn about it at ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at Sherman Oaks FF on social media. And hey, I think I'm done blabbing off the things. And then remember when I teased something. For shits and giggles, I can't handle a third film festival. Yeah. But for shits and giggles, I couldn't resist based upon so many cool films I've seen that fit the bill. So we started a THC Cinema movie night.
Oh, nice.
And in January, we rented out the White Fire and had a block of, I believe, 12 really great short films that were really great to watch with cannabis, which is completely legal where we live.
Hell yeah. Go California.
And federally. And coming up in a couple months on April 20th, which happens to be 4/20.
What?
We're holding another THC Cinema. And after I stop recording, I'm going to talk to Dylan. I'm going to recommend he submit for THC Cinema because I think Clean Cut might be good for that if you're into it.
Ooh, could you hang out and see me smoking a joint, watching my movie with me and ask me questions about it afterwards? Maybe. I don't know.
It could be possible. I definitely think Clean Cut would be rad to watch stoned. That's all I know.
Yeah.
And by the way, I say that as a person who didn't really get, a little bit in college in the 80s. And then I don't know.
That's the one who got stoned as shit all the time. I think it's awesome to watch high. So do that.
And I've learned in my middle age period to really just enjoy after a stressful day, take a gummy and relax and put on some television, and it's good. So, yeah, Clean Cut. I'm almost willing to say I would bet that Clean Cut just might make it into THC Cinema on 4/20. All right.
We'll have to see the thing that happens. But thank you for having me, Jeff. Apply to the festival. It's great. Work with Jeff. He's an awesome programmer. Thank you for having me. Can't wait to have you guys see the film.
All right. Thank you, Dylan. And thank you, everyone, for listening.